Welcome in, folks. Wes Pruitt, 4 Star Sports Media. You are sitting down at the sports buffet where you always come. Just take a seat, but you always leave full of sports. I got John Startman down at the bottom of me. The guy over here to my right, former guest, former Notre Dame star, author, uh, sports aficionado. Matt Shelton is back on air with us tonight, or today, I should say. Matt, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Wes and John. It's great to be back, man. Excited for this football season that we got coming up.
What a wild season it's been so far, and it just gets even more wild. John, we'll start there.
Yeah.
Let's start with some coaching news. As Rich, it is now official, by the way, John. Rich Rodriguez is the Jacksonville State head coach, and in addition to that, we now have a interim who has been named. Offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Rod Smith will be the interim head coach and prepare the team for their upcoming appearance in the Staff DNA Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida. So there's a little bit of breaking news as we start the show. What's your thoughts on that, John?
Well, we talked about this not too long ago on Inside the Lines, which will be out later today, folks. Yeah, I think it's a good hire. He's a good coach. He's been a winner everywhere he's been so far. He's been there before in West Virginia, so he knows the background. He just has new athletic director this time around, and Ren Baker, of course. I think Ren Baker did a great job by bringing somebody old or bringing an old foe back to West Virginia, where he has definitely won some football games in West Virginia. He took West Virginia to the Sugar Bowl one year, and they've had 10-win seasons at West Virginia. And I think the goal in the Big 12 with um, Rich Rod, they want to win 9 or 8, 10 games again going forward. And that's one reason I think it's a good hire in Morgantown.
Matt, when you look at Rich Rodriguez, very innovative offense. We know he's been effective there in Morgantown previously. What's your thoughts on some reunions we're starting to see? We saw Scott Frost go back to Central Florida. Now Rich Rod.
Yeah, I love it. I love the hire. Rich Rod's one of those guys you enjoy watching his teams. I say with him, you got to make sure to hire well a defensive coordinator, get somebody in there that's got a staunch defensive mind that can really get creative and help with that creative offense that he's going to bring to the table or to accompany that creative offense. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a great program. West Virginia's been good. So we'll see how he can turn it around for them.
No doubt. And then the other news, if you want to call Bill Belichick coming to North Carolina, first time he's ever coached college in his life, is it, John? My first question is this: what is his girlfriend taking a full semester or is she taking a half? How are we? Do we know how this works? Because she's quite young, folks. I'll let y'all Google that. Shout out Kurt Signetti, by the way. Google me. But John, Bill Belichick is now the head coach at North Carolina. He's already made his first hire. He brings in Michael Lombardi, former NFL executive, to be his general manager. I think Belichick is going to be 2 or 3 steps ahead. He's going to have a general manager. He's going to have a player personnel. He's going to have what every college football program should have had 2 years ago. What's your thoughts, John?
First of all, to answer your first part question, his girlfriend probably a graduate assistant slash graduate, getting her master's maybe from the University of North Carolina, and she's only 24 years old. So who knows with her? Well, she is a cheerleader for one thing, a former cheerleader, I might add. But yeah, that's the answer to your first part question. My second part question answer is, yeah, you brought up a good point. He's already hired a general manager. There's talks he's going to hire his son as the DC. It's going to be interesting who he hires as the OC because he definitely has some good candidates out there. There's talk that he has some good relationships that are on college football teams right now. So it'll definitely be interesting. Like I forgot the OC at Ole Miss's name. It escapes me right now. I heard it this morning at 5 o'clock this morning on the
Charlie Weiss.
radio. Yeah. So Charlie Weiss Jr. might be joining Bill Belichick at North Carolina. So you never really know what kind of is going to happen next couple of weeks because some coaches that he might be interviewing are coaching their team in a bowl game right now, per se, as well.
When I tell you that Matt Shelton answered that question faster than I mean, Matt Shelton. I mean, it's just Charlie Weiss Jr. I mean, well, I mean, let's also forget. I mean, Charlie was the head coach at Notre Dame for quite some time.
Yeah,
Charlie Weiss Jr. has a little bit of a history there too, so it made total sense to me why that correlation happened. I mean, in
it was
nanos.
tip of the tongue, man. I know that family well.
Speaking of that, I mentioned this earlier. Could we see a Charlie Weiss type name pop back up at North Carolina to work under Belichick, or maybe a Josh McDaniels?
I mean, I think you both hit the nail on the head. Personally, I think John had a great call right there with his son, with Bill's son coming over to coach. I think that just logically makes sense. They worked well together. He gave him a start in the NFL, obviously. And then I can see that Charlie Weiss connection, but Charlie really works well with Lane Kiffin. I think they have a great relationship. It just depends on if there's a little bit of bubbling that's happening over there and somebody's getting antsy and wanting to maybe move on. Who knows? But Ole Miss looks really good. I don't see Charlie moving just for that fact. He's got a great relationship that I think started back at Central Florida when Lane was coach back way back in the day. Was it Central Florida? I think it was UCF. Or where
FAU.
Florida.
there you go. Thank you. Somewhere
Same
like
difference. Same
one of them
difference.
places. So that Josh McDaniels call could be an interesting one. I mean, the whole landscape has changed in college football, and now you have an NFL coach coming down to college football that's basically now a true like pro-am type scenario where he brings to the table skills that most college coaches do not have. They haven't had to worry about paying players and yada yada, at least above the board, right? So now Bill comes in and he can pay players the way he wants to and structure a team the way he wants to, just like he did in the NFL. There's a little bit of a draft and a free agency type of scenario that's shaking out nowadays. I think we heard something about Marshall's team pretty much all going into the portal. So we have things like that. There's going to be a lot of funds in that chest when you have a Bill Belichick name stepping up to the table. Alumni are going to put money down to make that team great.
I'm glad he mentioned that, John.
The whole
So
team, Wes. The whole team.
no, the entire. Oh my gosh, this is nothing against you, Matt. There's a meme out there that has it literally says on it, the entire team at Marshall has entered the portal. Based on my research at On 3 last night, roughly 21 players currently have entered the portal. Not quite the entire roster, but to your point, it's a lot of players. Here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, there's 22 or 23 kids right now.
Mississippi State has 23.
Hey, we could get 2 articles out right now that says, hey, the entire roster's hit the portal. But let's move on to a subject that Matt really wants to discuss, John.
Oh yeah, can't wait. Bowl season.
By the way, I am not going to make the same mistake I did the last time Matt Shelton was on. Notre Dame defeated Texas A&M.
Yep.
We're not going to talk about a team with the last name Husky, though. All right, anyway.
Still hurts.
Notre Dame's in the college football playoff. Yes, playoff. So, number 7, by the way, is Indiana will travel to touchdown. I just want to go see Touchdown Jesus, man. I think that's so cool. Anyway, Matt's like, it's nothing, you know.
No, it's always something, man. Trust me.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Play like a champion, just a sign. That's so cool. All right, so number 10, Indiana, 11-1, travels to number 7, Notre Dame for a first round matchup, December 20th, 7 p.m., ABC and ESPN. Notre Dame does currently hold a 7.5 point favorite. Matt, tell me right now why there's no way Indiana wins this game.
I mean, just look at their schedule. If you look at their schedule, I know everyone's going to knock on us for NIU. I get it, but it's a classic trap game. You're coming off that high of a tough win under the lights in A&M. I mean, that's a tough game to come down from. And then we're looking past NIU. Who's not? I mean, that's normal. So look at their schedule. They've beaten The best team they have beaten is a 7-5 Michigan team. Their next best two wins are 6-6 Nebraska and a 6-6 Washington. And then they got crushed when they had to go away and play at Ohio State. So the way I see them is I see them as an Army who I love. I love our service academies. Do not get me wrong. But Army, if you look at their schedule, didn't play anyone until they came to Notre Dame. And what happened when they came to Notre Dame? Got proven that they weren't as good as everybody thought they were. If you look at their schedule, it's very similar to that of an IU. So that's how I would argue that IU is not going to come in and beat Notre Dame. Just look at their schedule. We don't, unfortunately for us, we don't get that weather advantage. IU, they're used to cold weather, they're used to snow. So whatever's thrown at us, they will be ready for. So it's not that SMU or someone from the South coming on up. So we don't have that advantage, but I think we have a schedule advantage, and we've won more decisively versus teams that were ranked at the time we played them and were proven that maybe not to be the best teams in the world.
Okay, speaking of what you just said, because John knows this is this gripes me. So people are saying that SMU has no ranked wins against top 25 teams, but they do. As you just said, when we played them, they were what? Top 25, right? That should count in my mind, and I would think in everyone's mind, as a top 25 win. So my question, Matt, is this, and I know we're getting a little bit off topic here. Sorry.
Okay.
My question is this: if we're not going to count the top 25 win during the season because we didn't finish top 25, why do we have rankings throughout the season? Why do we have preseason rankings? And why not just go off the ranking at the very end? Am I right or am I wrong?
I agree with you. I mean, look, if we're gonna have the only rankings that matter be the playoff top 25 rankings, why not just start showing rankings when those start showing up? Um, and I agree 1,000% because look, when a team loses, and if they lose in a decisive fashion or whatever, that shakes up a locker room. A locker room starts talking. Things can head south and snowball very quickly for a team unless the coach picks up the team or unless you have strong leadership in that locker room. So I think if a top 25 team loses, something can creep into their mind to where they just aren't the same team anymore. So I don't think it should be discounted that they lose two or three after a team beats them when they're in the top 25 because that changes the dynamic of a team. Now, it can change for the better. Like if you look at Notre Dame, they lose to an NIU. I think Notre Dame got better and came together as a team because that was inevitably going to happen as the offensive line solidified. We had a lot of young guys there. We had a quarterback that was transferring from Duke that comes over. He had a surgery in the spring. He doesn't get a lot of time to gel and create that chemistry with his guys. I think a lot of the things you're seeing with Notre Dame were going to happen. But I think a loss to an NIU and you get made fun of, and people call you out and talk shit about it, I think that helps the team gel and come together even more quickly, which is what you saw. The opposite end of the spectrum, I think a top 25 that loses to a Notre Dame who lost to an NIU is now thinking, well, who the hell are we? If they lost to NIU, now is NIU better than us? I think you have a lot of mind games that happen when you lose. So I think to discount or not give credit for beating someone when they're a top 25 team is doing a disservice to the whole gambit of the ranking system.
Especially when, and John, I promise I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yes.
You just know I'm passionate about this. Especially when teams that, well, it just means more in their conference. We'll just leave it at that. When they play every week, and then you look up, oh, they've got 7 top 25 wins. How? How did they have 7 top 25 wins? Oh, that's right, because I understand it's a tower conference, but by the way, if you have 3 losses, you're not in the college football playoff. I know, have you ever seen Christmas Vacation, John? You know when cousin Eddie's sitting there and he's thinking and he's got that face? That's kind of what Alabama fans are trying to figure out now is, are we in the top 12? You're not in the top 12. You're not in the playoff because you have 3 losses, 2 of which to top teams with 6 losses on the season, and you only scored 3 points against Oklahoma. Now, do I understand how some of them are like, well, if we're going to base a playoff on a half of a game, talking about SMU there, but SMU lost 2 games on last second field goals, both to top 25 teams. John, can Alabama say that?
No, because like you brought up, 3 freaking points against Oklahoma. A bad Oklahoma team, I might add, did not even have their OC all season long. So Alabama fans, just get over it. You're done this year. Move on. You're playing Michigan. Um, yeah, just move on from it. You're playing Michigan in your bowl game, and just be happy you're in a bowl game.
So
But Matt, I have a question for you, real quick.
Yeah.
Did the top 12 get it right after all, in your eyes, or who maybe deserved that seating over? I mean, not deserved that seating, but maybe are you surprised that Notre Dame didn't get to 6? Like I've had Notre Dame as my 6, not my 7.
I yeah, we texted about this a little bit. I think they got the overall 12 correct. I think you can have your arguments about 11, and I get that being SMU. You can have your arguments about them and if they deserve to get in. I agree with both of you. I think they deserve to get in. Um, but I do think the seating got a little whack. I think the seating in general is a little whack. I think it needs to be redone. Conference championships, I think they are very important and they need to have that carrot out there and you have to dangle it. But I don't think they deserve buys. I think we need to look at top 4 deserve buys. That should be it from now on. I think you need to change it because Oregon has a tough path. And I think as number one, you need to have, certain advantages because you've earned them. Um, then getting back to Notre Dame, I think they're a 5 or 6 seed. I understand why they get pushed back. I don't agree with it. I think when you look at it, their whole body of work um, is phenomenal in the sense of how they're playing now. So they pass the eye test on every single level, all three: special teams, defense, and offense. They pass the eye test. I don't think you can say that about everyone else. Yes, I know Texas' 2 losses are to Georgia, but Texas hasn't looked phenomenal in every game they've played. So yes, they've got 2 tough losses. I get it, and I respect what they've done on the year. But again, look at their schedule. It's the weakest in the SEC, and they had some tight games there. So I think to have them stay in front of a Notre Dame team that's looked dominant for the last 3/4 of the season. Uh, I don't necessarily agree with that. Yes, I'm biased. Totally appreciate that and see it, but I think they're Notre Dame's a 6 or a 5, and mostly I wanted that weather advantage just to see and show that those Southern teams are gonna not be able to perform well when they come up to the North.
The only team I think that can probably perform in this cold weather will be the University of Tennessee as the 9 seed. I think Neil Winship has hosted a playoff game. That's like I talked with Wes Sunday night. How do you drop Ohio State on like 2 or 3 spots or 4 spots, but you drop Georgia down to 12
Yeah,
when they lost to Ole Miss? And that's one reason I think Tennessee should have had the home game over Ohio State. Nothing against Michigan; they're 7-5, but you cannot control a bad team like a Michigan team that they were like this year. But I think, like me and Wes have brought up, I think you definitely got to reseed them. I think it'd be nice if you see the first 2 rounds at a home field, like Wes has brought up, and then after the first 2 rounds, that's when you decide where you want to host, like the Sugar Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and etc. So, what's your thoughts on that, real quick?
Oh, I repeat that. Sorry, missed it.
Like
so
we thought, go ahead, Wes.
oh well, I was gonna say so just to give context here.
Yeah,
Once the expansion happens, which I think is 16, 18, ended up 20 probably. 16 for sure. I think once you see 16, I think the first 2 rounds should be hosted on site just to allow the fans and that team. That's to me, that's an honor. Hey, we're in the playoffs. We get to host a playoff game. Do it for the first 2 rounds because it keeps that engagement, in my opinion, into college athletics.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I mean, the buzz, the noise, the excitement of hosting a playoff. Like Notre Dame is going to be off the chain this weekend or next weekend.
I
Um,
can't.
you look on Facebook, I'm texting friends, like everyone is so excited. Everyone's trying to figure out how to get there and how to get tickets and what to do when you get there. And everyone's making a mad dash to make sure they're part of the experience. And I think more teams need that in the future. Um, and having 2 rounds do it, hell yeah. I think the more the better. The more you can rally fans around the whole concept of a playoffs system, and it's going to be on campus. And like Notre Dame next weekend, they're going to have college game day show up, and then the very next day, game day is going to be where are they going? Oh, Ohio
London.
State, Tennessee, I think. So you have some cool little things happening like that. And now you've got a Notre Dame home game for the first time since I believe 1990 that is going to be aired on a network that is not NBC. So ABC is going to host it. So just little nuances like that are cool. I think that's fun and adds just to the pageantry that is college football, and makes college football a beautiful thing.
Write that down, John. Write that
Yeah.
down. First game of 1990. Write that down. I trust him. Yes.
Well, that's what, I hit it with something like that.
Well, I mean, just put that in parentheses, John, or something like that.
There we
and then
go.
we'll just do a little research after the show. And that is
Street the schedule is going to matter in the future also regarding these teams. I think you're not going to see maybe like two teams on their schedule that are FCS or maybe like one FCS team. I think you're going to see like a Notre Dame, for example, which I give them a lot of credit. They got a tough non-region or non-conference schedule next year as well because they do play the ACC teams, but they go to your neck of the woods in Fayetteville West, and they also play at Miami, home for A&M, and then home for Purdue. So credit Notre Dame on doing the right thing by putting the scheduling together in the near future as well.
Look, and that's one thing Notre Dame always has tried to do is schedule a quote unquote out of conference schedule, a tough one, because we understand we're not in a conference. So we don't get that championship game to prove who we are and to automatically get bids. So we have to strengthen it up front. It's kind of like what you see Penny Hardaway doing. He knows that the AAC is not necessarily the strongest schedule in the world, but he's going to front load it so they look good.
Oh man, that is funny as hell.
Just
Shout
saying.
out Arkansas State. God.
I know. It was, yes.
And this is the guy that lives in Nashville calling us out like that.
So funny, man. That's so funny. That was slick too. It was smooth, just right in there.
The
Just slid
transition, right?
It was beautiful.
No,
Beautiful
that was not playing at all either.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I just had to laugh. I'm sorry. I mean, I might get in trouble from Memphis, but whatever. That's funny. No, I know I won't. Man. So Matt, as we close up here, and you look at what'd you say, John?
I want predictions.
Oh, okay. So as we close up here, and you look at this season as a whole with the playoff, how do you think it ends, Matt? Who do you? I mean, I understand there's going to be a little bit of biasness here.
Sure.
And before I start, I do want to say this. I don't think it's right that Notre Dame, and this is what happens, they're punished every year because they're not in a conference. Yeah. I don't think that's right. I think you have to they looked at the entire resume or body of work for every other team in the SMU, everybody. Yeah. Why not Notre Dame? Yeah. Oh, well, they're not in a conference. There's really no way for us to gauge this. Well, Ward Manuel told us week 1, we don't care. We're not looking at what conference you play in. We're looking at your body of work, how you play, who you play. You look at Notre Dame's schedule, I don't know of too many more schedules around the country that are any tougher than theirs. I say all that to say this. Matt, who do you think plays in the championship and then wins it all?
Well, also you touched on schedule. So another point, just real quick. Preseason, if you look at Notre Dame's schedule, one of the toughest in the country. And now we're at schedule post-season is like, 59, 57, whatever. So it's still a decent strength of schedule. But Notre Dame schedules, and every team schedules these games years in advance. And we do it based off what we think is going to be the best matchup. It's not our fault that USC isn't who we thought they were. It's not our fault that some of these, like Virginia, is not the caliber we thought they were. But guess who showed up? Navy and Army. You gave them credit during the season. Let's not discount them now that Notre Dame beat them. So
100%.
I think when we look at the playoff, I think Oregon has the toughest route, even though they're the best team. I still think they find a way to get it done because Oregon, to me, has just kind of looked unstoppable to an extent. I think that does not bode well for them in the championship game to actually win it all, though, because they have to go through so much. And if I look at the other bracket, I see it being Notre Dame. I know a lot of pundits see it being Notre Dame as well, but I see a lot saying they're going to lose to Oregon. I can see it happening because you got to get to that Georgia team next. I mean, obviously, we got to beat IU first, who's no slouch, even though I think their schedule says a little bit otherwise. But Georgia has a hurt quarterback. Beck's out, so you got this. What is it, Gunnar Stockton? He's coming in, and that's a little bit of a wild card, a little bit of an unknown. The team will be different. They're not going to be one dimensional, but it brings more legs to the table. So I think Notre Dame's got a tricky schedule, but I think having a backup quarterback bodes very well. So then they jump up and are probably going to play a Penn State, maybe a Boise State if they can't figure out a way to stop Genty. Um, so I honestly do see Notre Dame getting there. Whether they win it all or whether Oregon pulls it out is a coin flip to me. I think Notre Dame is neck and neck because of the toughness of the playoff bracket that Oregon has to go through. I think they're going to get pretty banged up playing some of those SEC teams. Um, yeah, SEC teams. Texas. Took me a second.
Hey, it just means more. You can't forget them. Are you crazy?
You can't. You can't.
Gosh,
Well, to make his point, he does make a good point because Carson Beck right now is questionable to play in this second round per se.
Yeah.
So if Notre Dame does get to play Georgia, I think with Marcus Freeman's background as the DC and now head coach, he does have the little bit of nothing against Kirby Smart, but two defensive minds, from top to bottom, in Kirby and Freeman also two defensive minds, and also to your point, Georgia's offensive line is a little bit banged up as well, and I think that could help out Notre Dame as well because they can put a little bit more pressure on Gunner as well going forward in this in this game if they do face off against each other.
Exactly.
And to Matt's point, and we've talked about it too. Everyone now looks at paths, right? Oh, well, yes, Oregon's got the most difficult path.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to just defend the committee, but to their credit, their job was just to rank. And that's what I think a lot of people are failing to remember is that, look at what they did to Oregon. They screwed Oregon. No, they didn't screw. Oregon's still number one. Oregon didn't get screwed. They got screwed over on the bracket, but that wasn't the committee's job to fill the bracket. And Ward even said that. Our job was not to fill the bracket out. Our job was to rank the teams. The bracket just came with it. That's out of their hands. And I mean, people may say, "Oh, Wes, you're just defending you're defending the guy you got onto." You're right, I am, because I don't feel like that 6 out of the 13 members of this committee are acting athletic directors. I have a hard time believing these athletic directors are really sitting there and, as Ward said, quote, watching all the games, studying statistics. Oh, and still being the athletic director of a Division I university with NIL portal head coaches. There's no way. I don't believe it. Matt, what's your thoughts on that? Sorry. You can tell I get off on tangents.
No. Look, I shoot from the hip, so I'm good with it. It's like a CEO. CEO, he has other duties besides running the company. I think an athletic director has other duties than running his company as well. But he's going to surround himself, or she surround themselves with people who can help them. So I agree. I doubt they're watching every single game, but I bet you they have someone on the staff who they trust, who knows football, who thinks like them, who eats what they eat in the morning, who has the same schedule they have, that lives and breathes football like them, that is feeding them information. And you have analysts from all over the world telling them probably what's going on as well. So I think there's a lot of things being fed to them. I think they're watching a lot of games. I mean, They're football people. They love it. They love sports. So they are in it. But watching every single game and analyzing, critiquing, I agree with you on that. I don't think they're doing it, but I think it's just they're like CEOs. They don't know every single aspect of every single thing that's going on in their company, but they got a general idea of what the hell is going on. And they've got good people around them who are feeding them the information so they can make the appropriate decision based off what they see and what they feel.
So it's exactly what Bill Belichick's going to be in Chapel Hill. Beautiful. Exactly. I love it now.
Exactly. Full circle.
Beautiful. I love it. Matt Shelton has joined us today. Man, John, every time Matt comes on, he just brings it. Maybe it's the, I play like a champion. Maybe. So, Matt, do you have like a little play like a champion in your house, and like every morning you like walk by and touch it?
No, but you touch it once, it sticks with you forever.
Okay. I didn't know. Oh, that's kind of like a Baptist, so that's cool. So I didn't know. Um, I didn't know exactly how. Like, I just think it'd be really cool. You know, if you're a former Notre Dame player, you have a little small one. You know, like in your bathroom or something. You like put one in there. That'd be kind of cool.
That's
Matt,
good.
who walks away with the Heisman on Saturday night?
Oh man. Um,
That's tough.
Are you okay with? Okay, first of all, are you okay with four finalists? First of all,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
I think I think it's right. I think as they announce everything and we're going to see who's number four. I mean, I'm sure you can have arguments about who should be in at number four. You can argue anything, right? But I think Travis Hunter is unique. I mean, we haven't seen a defensive player playing at that level ever in our era of football. I mean, you saw it back in the day a little bit, but not to this extent. I mean, if you look at the amount of time that kid is on the field and the productivity at such a high level that he's able to bring to the table game in, game out, week to week, I don't see anyone beating that. I think there should be a little bit of a point bump for him because of just that unique nature, because we haven't seen it. It's a once in a generation type of thing. And I think you can say that without saying, putting a little asterisk by it. And yes, Genti is having a phenomenal season. Don't want to discredit that. Don't want to take anything away from it. But again, go back to who he's playing. And I'm not saying that he can't do that against top level competition. If he were in the SEC, he probably could. I mean, he's phenomenal. But look at the schedule and then look at the uniqueness of what Travis Hunter's doing. I think it's Hunter hands down. I think you're going to have it close because you're going to have some guys that do appreciate and respect how close he's gotten to Barry Sanders and moving into that fourth overall and rushing history of all time. That's phenomenal. But Travis Hunter, to me, is hands down the winner.
By the way, John, we got a new man in Las Vegas as Dan Mullen is now the head coach at UNLV.
Wow. But
Mullen.
didn't hey
He
didn't
was my GA at Notre Dame, by the way. Dan Mullen.
How cool!
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
How cool!
Yeah.
But didn't he say that he was happy where he was at doing games and whatnot?
So did Mike Norvell. What the hell does that matter? That means nothing. I'm a proud Memphian. The next day, your ass is in Tallahassee. Ain't nobody listening to that crap. Hey, it's a
Look, you're always
business. I
chasing
mean,
the money as a coach.
excuse me. As a kid, and I mean, as a immature adult, to be honest with you, I hated it. I got so mad. Like it literally directed how my day went. Now I understand it's a business. Everyone's making a decision to better themselves. You can't fault that person. That's just my opinion. People say, "Oh, well, you're whatever." That's just my opinion. I don't think in life you can get on anybody for trying to better themselves. If it
And
works, great. If it doesn't, whatever. Go ahead.
that goes exactly to the transfer portal. You can't get mad at the kids that they have the ability to go somewhere else and have a money grab, because a lot of them will not make it to the NFL. This is their chance while they're good, quote unquote, to go get that money and get what they can now, because NFL is not guaranteed. Your next game isn't guaranteed. So don't get mad at the kids for the NCAA allowing this chaos to happen.
And to my point earlier, the reason that the portal is happening right now is because of the student part of the whole thing, and that is the semester end. That's why the portal's there right now. That's why the 28th is there. It's because they want to make sure that the student portion, which in all honesty should be the most important portion of this whole thing, is still in line. People freak out. It's do a little research. It's not Matt agrees, John agrees, it's not hard. But to Matt's point, you cannot just completely come unhinged on a young man and his family for that matter for making a decision that's bettering them. If it works, great. But if it doesn't work, that doesn't mean you get to go trash the young man and say, "Oh, well, the grass wasn't always greener." I mean, yeah, you're right. It may not be, but what about life? What about I mean, oh man, yeah, this job's not really working. Let me go try something else. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you don't call the person and be like, "Oh, you suck, dude. You suck." No, you don't do that. It's just there's a level of maturity with fans today that, in my opinion, is ruining college athletics.
Yeah. But in those fans' defense, we've never had social media at this level. So I bet you those fans back in the day were just as bad.
Very true. Very true. I mean, he's right. He's right.
Matt, my final question: do you think they're going to limit on how many transfers you get also going forward, or
They
do
got
you
to do
think?
something, man. They
Yeah,
got to do something. Because look, these kids, I understand the money grab, and I just said they should do it. And they should because they can. I get that. But there's something about being with a team for 3 or 4 years. There's something about that ingrains just that love of the university. And that's gone. I mean, college football, as we grew up on, is gone. And it's because the NCAA hasn't allowed that. And that's sad to me because that is something that I thought was beautiful growing up. I love that those allegiances and those bonds. And let's be honest, why do we play fantasy football? It's not because we love the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, the Ravens, or the Steelers, but we watch that shit because we love that player and we want that player to win for my team. So when players move around, well, are those fans going to now follow a player they love and not root for Oregon or whomever or Marshall? I mean, I don't know. So it changes the dynamic there. So I think we need to fix the system. There's got to be something. If you want to limit transfers, I think there's got to be a system in place. There's got to be something. I don't know what it is, but I just like the guys that get it to the NFL. If they're unhappy with coach, you know, whoever. I was going to say Bill Belichick because he's on my mind, but he's not there anymore. But if they're unhappy with their coaches, what do they think they can just leave and go into a portal and go to a different team? I mean, no, you got to man up. You got to fight through it. You got to deal with the bullshit that comes your way, deal with the adversity. If you fall down and you get your ass chewed out and you get spit on, get up. Who cares? Stay, fight. Don't just go into a portal because coach made you cry. And I think a lot of kids are going to have that mentality. And when they get to the NFL, it's going to be a rude awakening, and they're not going to be in the NFL very long. So
That's a great point.
yeah, that
That's a
college
great
football
point.
games better get updated quick.
I'm
Man,
telling
yeah.
you got to fix the system. I like what they're doing because when I played, I always thought that if a coach leaves, a player should be able to leave. I mean, you see it all the time. And we just had somebody commit to Notre Dame, and I was reading something, and he said he loves the coaches and really loves how they operate. Well, if our coaches leave, and that's why he came to university, why shouldn't he be allowed to leave? So
Mhm.
I love that aspect because if a coach leaves me and I went there for him, maybe I want to go follow him. Maybe I want to say, screw that guy, screw the university. I'm going home and I'm going back to the University of Memphis. I don't know. But I think that is an ability that is good for football and good for the players and something that if coach is going to go chase money and he's going to leave me, all right, well, I'm going to go somewhere that I feel appreciated maybe. And I always thought that was something that is right. So we'll see.
And speaking of money, I think where we see a lot of these issues alleviated is, and if you don't know what that word means, folks, you can Google it. But this revenue sharing, I think, is going to help a lot because you're going to have then a lot of these collectives that are throwing an absorbent amount of money, and in some cases not throwing the money, which is why you see a lot of these players entering the portal. I think the revenue sharing is going to alleviate a lot of these issues because it's going to take the control out of the collective's hands and give it more of a university because they're going to have guys in place to run the whole revenue sharing. I think that helps a lot. I think there's also legislation, to your point, John, that makes it more like the old days where, hey, if you transfer out, you got to sit. And if you don't sit, you don't play. And I think that's going to hold, I think it will maybe pause some of these players from jumping to Matt's point as quickly whenever something doesn't go right. But I think the days of a 4 year starter like a Seth Hennigan, and I've mentioned this in air and on article, I think Seth is the last of the Cowboys. I think he's the last 4 year starter you see at the college level. He's the only one this year, folks, and I think that right there tells you exactly why my what I'm saying is correct. There's a reason he's the only one. It's because no one else has. I don't want to say no one else has loyalty. No one else, I think, understands the value of being loyal to your university anymore. It's just my opinion. Matt Shelton has joined us. Matt absolutely just knocks it out of the park. He plays like a champion, John. Every time he comes on here, that's
Every
what he
day.
does.
Every day.
Every day, every day. But we appreciate you coming on, man. Talking a little college football with us this morning. It was kind of it's kind of an abbreviated show, but it's all good. Um, But we appreciate you coming on, and we are looking forward to having you back on because I got a sneaky feeling that Marcus Freeman and the Irish make some noise in the playoffs.
I like the way you think, Wes. Look forward to talking to you guys in a few weeks.
Yes, sir.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
Matt. Go dogs when they play each other.
See, John's really going to start that already. He ain't even on the
Already.
screen
It's too early for that.
Not so fast, my friend.
yet.
Come on, Lee.
That's it. That's what I'm gonna start calling John Lee. That's it.
There
Perfect.
you go.
Lee Corso. But Matt, we appreciate you coming on today.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
John, Matt came on and did an incredible job once again. To Matt's point, this is something that we really got to keep an eye on, and that is the NIL. That is the portal. The window's getting ready to close, folks. As my granddad would say when it was cold outside, you need to shut that pneumonia hole, meaning close the window. But it's gonna happen, man, and it's right around the corner, John. It's right around the corner. Real quick, John, as we close. Speaking of portal, speaking of NIL, we talked a little bit about Marshall. We've mentioned Arkansas. There's other programs that have an absorbent amount of players in the portal, but as we know, the player does two things, right, John? The player taketh away, but the portal taketh away. The portal also will giveth. So we see it every year. What kind of return do you think these teams are going to see? Marshall being one, Arkansas being another one. You see Taylor Green come in last year from the portal after KJ Jefferson would exit. You're seeing Braylon Russell here in Arkansas enter, then not enter, and now we don't know what he's doing. The large number of players in the portal, John, how many of these guys do you think that are in now land? That's the big question, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely, because you don't know what's going to happen, because some players might return to their school that they basically decided not to, they decided to leave at first and then come back. You saw that the last couple of days regarding certain players. But I don't know if you saw this or not, but as of 2 hours ago, Sam Shoemaker said on Twitter with Greg and Eli had Ryan Silverfield on this morning, and Sam Shoemaker to Eli and Greg's point. Ryan Silverfield said on 98.5, Greg and Eli, West Virginia has had less players in the portal than Memphis. Notes, West Virginia is also withholding NIL money until after the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So to their point, the Ryan's point, Ryan nailed it. Why not hold the money until after the bowl game for these players? Because you don't see, West Virginia is doing, their players, I'm surprised you don't see that many players leave already in West Virginia as well. But to their point, I think Ryan nailed it. You're holding their money until after the bowl game.
Yeah.
And I think you need more schools like that down the road to hold their money until the bowl game gets over. Because, like you said, yeah, the portal closes on the 28th because their new class schedule, in second semester.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to hold their money going forward, because some people just want to take advantage of certain schools. Not saying that's happening, but we have seen it off record.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think when you look at the revenue sharing, what I was just talking about, I think this is where the contracts, not necessarily through the collective, right, but more through the revenue sharing contracts legality. In these contracts, you're going to see that stipulation. What you're seeing right now with West Virginia is, all right, you want your money? Okay. After the season. You leave?
You
What
don't
money?
you don't get any of it.
What money? Now, it's what everyone said a long time ago we didn't want to happen, and that's pay for play. Right? That's literally what it is. But at the same time, how much are they paying you? Generally speaking, it's not cheap. Generally speaking, you're making a good chunk of money. And the NCAA even says, John, 98% of these will go professional in something other than sports. What are the odds that that's what the NCAA says? They are. They're going professional in their name, image, and likeness. That's what they're going professional in if they don't make the NFL. John, fun stuff today, man. Matt Shelton came on. Incredible stuff. We'll be back tomorrow morning as well, talking a little more in depth into some college football games as we've got America's game this weekend, and that's Army Navy. I would say I'm going for the a team that's in the American Conference, but we'll discuss that later. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to that game. Plus, you got bowl games right around the corner as they crank up in just 2 days, folks. Just 2 days. It's Saturday.
2 days.
Yep, 2 days. The Celebration Bowl kicks off between South Carolina State and Jacksonville State. But we will be back like I said, tomorrow morning, bright and early, right here at 4-Star Sports Media. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. For John Startvet and everyone there at 4-Star Sports Media, I'm Wes Pruitt. And as always, folks, be good. And what do we always tell them, John?
Stay classy.
Stay classy, folks.